great. Okay, and that'll just get going here in a sec. So thank you everyone for bearing with us. We had a power outage very quickly on Karen's laptop, but we're glad to be back up. Just to wrap up our talk here about emancipation celebrations, the main ones that we discussed the history of course, are Juneteenth and then Emancipation Day proper. And I think one of the most compelling things about these celebrations, Juneteenth being one that's grounded in Galveston, Texas, Emancipation Day being a day that, you know, we think about Washington, D.C., but that both of these dates and emancipation celebrations in general are universal, and not just in the U.S., as Karen was saying, but you also have celebrations in northern Mexico of people, you know, celebrating emancipation and what emancipation means to people today. And I think, Karen, right, the last thing that we saw was a quote from President Obama in 2016, talking about how emancipation doesn't just harken back to barbecues of years past and family celebrations, you know, but of course the struggle of people in the past. And I was curious because I've heard, you know, some more traditional kind of symbols of Emancipation Day. I know that strawberries are often associated with Emancipation Day because of the season, you know, that strawberries ripen. Are there other hallmarks of Emancipation Day that folks would recognize today?
I would think the actual cookouts, the gatherings, the family gatherings, the stories, and it's whatever one sees within it. I didn't grow up knowing about Juneteenth. Here, not until I started doing research.
Well, that's another question that we had too. Is there were many emancipation celebrations as we see post Civil War and into the early 20th century, but then it seems almost as though they perhaps because of Jim Crow, you know, civil rights era, and then in the last couple of decades we see them returning, you know, kind of enforced or becoming more popular. Is that accurate as far as AAH?
And so I grew up with Watch Night, watching the old year out and the new year in, not realizing that my ancestors would have been doing that, watching over the family, not knowing where they were going to be hired or sold to on New Year's Day to settle debt.
Yeah.
So that took on a whole different meaning for me, where that growing up in church, we were thinking that we were watching the old year out and the new year in, and asking, seeking for forgiveness and hoping that we were going to do better the next year, and things of that nature. Making these resolutions that some cannot keep or whatever. But I grew up, like I said, with Watch Night and the traditional American celebrations that we celebrate around here regularly. Our textbook stories were few and far between as far as African American history when I grew up.
Right.
My mother's time, in a different generation, she had far more history afforded to her than what I had, because she had firsthand knowledge from elders that told different stories.
That's interesting. So you still have an oral tradition.
Very much so.
Yeah, for these different dates. We also had someone who was curious, seeing your photos from crossing the Rappahannock and your photos of your Juneteenth commemoration. Obviously, 2020 is kind of up in the air as far as actually having gatherings or having events. But does AAHA have any future plans for more Emancipation Day type presentations and events?
Oh yes, definitely. We're hoping to put more information up on our website as well. We're looking at the United States colored troops that were born in Fauquier County across the board. And what's fascinating is that these men enlisted throughout the United States. They didn't all go to Pennsylvania or to DC or in Warrenton to enlist. They were enlisted wherever they were. I know Jacob Cooper had been taken down south with the former slaveholder. Now he built, made the bricks to build Waveland Plantation here in Fauquier, but he ended up enlisting in Vicksburg, Mississippi, where he was living. Thomas O.B. Carter emancipated those 58 people. Well, they were not allowed to stay here in Fauquier, and some of them ended up going into Allen County up in Pennsylvania. And their descendants, a whole group of them, listed with the USCT. So you find these different stories that connect you, and then when to be able to find the names of people that were in that 62nd group that were down in Galveston, Texas, that was awesome. Now, the one story that I didn't share with you, that group that left down, they were, when they left Texas, some of them went back to Missouri, and they actually raised monies for a school there. And I think that's
an amazing legacy. Yeah.
And we found the grave markers online for several of those men that were part of that engagement that were born in Fauquier County.
That's fantastic. Well, I'm glad that you had a chance to share that little bit of the story with us here in the post credits. And I wanted to thank everyone who tuned in today and who is tuning back in now. Of course, as with many of these topics, I encourage everybody to go check out the Afro-American Historical Association's website to learn more about the organization and learn more about the ongoing research there. I understand that there's some research still happening there at the association, but definitely call ahead if you want to know more or if you want to use some of the resources there. Is there anything else that you would like our folks to know about AAHA, Karen, or any parting words of wisdom?
No, it's just talk to the elders, talk to your family members, document your stories. And during this time, talk to people and see what they're experiencing, what are they going through, what are the positives and negatives that they've picked up during this time of COVID and civil unrest, and just document this time so that the next generation will have an understanding of the time in the people's own words, and it doesn't have to be interpreted one way or the other. You'll have a first-hand account that you can leave for people. And I think that's very important.
Yeah, I think that's an excellent suggestion. I know of a couple people who are keeping journals or even just a Word document, writing down their thoughts and feelings. I think that's a wonderful suggestion. Again, thank you, Karen, for joining us today. Thank you, everyone, for tuning in for the Virginia Piedmont Heritage Area and our, updates and online programs. We do have an in-person program this Saturday. It's a trail ride of the Battle of Upperville of the Civil War. And so that is a horseback trail ride. If you need a horse, go to our website and check out the event details. And we've got connections that may be able to help you out. Otherwise, we will see you on the internet coming up as well. Have a wonderful afternoon. Thanks, Karen.
Certainly.